Howdy, this is Luke Flowers, and you're listening to Master of One podcast. You can find me at lukeflowerscreative.com.
Welcome to another episode of the Master of One podcast, the podcast that's still waiting to start breathing again after this week's Game of Thrones. Part 1 this week, we talk about Logan Lucky, Gen Con recap, Huck G's farewell, and the idea book. I'm Andrew, your Master of Art and Design.
I'm Patrick, your Master of Television and Film.
And I'm Luke, your Master of Toys and Games.
So collect as much dragon glass as you could possibly carry, because this episode's about to swarm.
Underwater.
Kick every episode off by going around the table, which is where we talk about something new, fun, and noteworthy about our weeks. Patrick, tell us about your week.
I will. So I actually just got back from watching the full solar eclipse.
We only got 70% in Texas.
We got 80% in Ohio.
You got what?
80.
Okay, I got 100%. I was not only was I in the area of like totality, but I was also 17 miles from the center line of that area. So I got over 2 minutes.
Why didn't you just drive there?
No.
You're 17 minutes away. Just drive.
17 miles. No, I mean, we got as close as I think we comfortably could just because of like where cities are located. And we found honestly, we found like this park that nobody was at. And we were in the middle of a big field. And it was crazy. Like, I've never seen something like that.
Do you have superpowers now?
Yeah.
Well, yeah.
Well, I wore my yellow shirt so I would look like a sun watching the sun.
Yeah.
And it was crazy because...
But instead, you just brought your mom with you, so you were a sun watching the sun.
Looking like a sun. No, it's funny because, like, yeah, it gets dark, but it's not...
Hi, Peggy.
It's not like... Don't imagine sunset and dark. It's not like that because the shadows are wrong, the color of the light is wrong, everything's wrong. It just dims. So it's really weird, like the tone of the sky and everything. And then, like... it's getting darker, but it's kind of hard to perceive because it's happening slowly. But then in the last 10 minutes, it's pretty abrupt. And certainly in the last minute leading up to like that moment where the moon is completely in front of the sun, it's just, it is crazy. And then it gets dark, all the insects get loud, and it sounds like it's nighttime. And then it just looks so bizarre. You actually see a 360-degree, what almost looks like sunset, because you see light at all the horizon all the way around you. Because the sun is straight above, which you don't ever see when the sun's actually going down. So it's a really just bizarre view.
That's like watching a Texas sunset on any normal day. But what I thought was really interesting for us, like I said, it was only 70%, so it wasn't noticeably dimmer. I mean, a little bit. It kind of felt like it felt like a normal day in Ohio is what it felt like.
Sure.
Like as far as like the overcast feeling. But the temperature dropped about 10 degrees, like for about 15 minutes. And we were standing outside of the shade in Texas and not sweating. So that was a pretty nice situation.
It was, it wasn't like pitch black, like it's 3 a.m. pitch black, but it was like the sun, it felt like the sun had already gone over the horizon. And it was just like, you're getting like the light wash, from there. So it felt like maybe... 20 minutes after sundown. That's kind of how it felt. But then as soon as the sun started coming back as soon as after that 2 minutes was up, it brightened up very quickly. But yeah, then we drove back, fought traffic. So I do want to take... So that's been like the highlight, right? Life has been busy. I do want to say one thing that I got this week. So As Rude as Possible.
Yeah.
That's one of the people in our community. And that sounds like I'm being mean. That's his name. Instagram.com/as rude as possible. He goes, it looks like Chus, C-H-U-S. I don't know how to pronounce it because it could be choose. He could be just very open to people living their own life. And it could be choose. It also could be Chus. But he had some stickers made. These are some drawings that he did, and one is like brass knuckles with a marker and like a pin between them. So I guess it's like his own version of Skull and Crossbones.
Yeah.
The other one is this like the is it a pigeon sandwich? Is this like a dead pigeon?
Sure.
I'm sure this is a reference that I don't know.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know, but it's got an American flag in the...
It's the
as
toothpick.
like the toothpick,
Yeah.
holding it together. And then the other one is a middle finger, and it says across the knuckles. And but I love these. Like the illustrations are very well done. It's like street art is how I probably describe it. And
it reminds me a lot of
Tattoo Flash.
of most of the stuff that's on Adult Swim.
It's like Tattoo Flash is this style kind of.
Yeah, that's a good way to put it. Absolutely. And in fact, I think he calls it, he refers to it as being punk skate related. That's kind of how he talks about it. But very cool stuff, very high quality, awesome stickers, whatever. So he sent those actually to a bunch of people. He kind of did this open call in the Slack. Anybody that wanted some, he would send some out. And I appreciate it too, because these came all the way from like Spain. I think.
When I first got when I first got the letter in the mail, I was like, who the heck did I order something from in Barcelona? And I opened it and was pretty excited. They're fun. The only one that he showed us in the Slack channel was the creative like Knuckles. And so it was cool to see the additional ones come through.
Yeah,
I don't know what I'm gonna put the middle finger sticker on. Just given
Your car.
I've actually put it on my computer screen over Luke's face. That's how I see when I look at his square. No, but it's great. You know, I was actually talking with him after the fact when I got mine in. He was just checking on me to make sure I'd got them, and I told him that I had and that I loved them. I thought they were great, and he said that. And I did ask if I could share this on air, so this isn't. He knows this isn't like a breach of confidentiality. Don't be scared to talk to me, anybody. But he said that he's actually felt a lot like an outsider in the design community because he doesn't do this minimalist design that everybody else around him is doing. Like of like the really flat minimalist, like where you're seeing everywhere, or like the two-tone posters that we see a lot.
Yeah.
He does the skate stuff, the punk stuff. I think describing it as like the classic tattoo style. I think that's dead on. And so for him, like he wants to be a part of community. He's in the Slack community, he's very active, and I'm sure he's a part of other communities as well. But at the same time, he doesn't really necessarily connect with the other people he's talking to from a work standpoint. And so I just think that's an interesting thing. And the thing that I want to, from that, say is I'm glad that Chus. Let me get an actual name because I don't want to be called. Oh no, it's just Chus. That's true. Okay, cool. That's what's on the letter. I was assuming I'd flip over that letter and it'd be like Mike or something. No, it's Chus. Okay.
I wanted it to be Chris
Spanish,
so bad. I just wanted it to be Chris.
Oh my gosh! What if it was Chris?
He just says terrible.
And I've just been saying it wrong this whole time. No, but I like the fact that even feeling that. He's still able to produce his work. He's still able to contribute to a community, and he's still able to like overcome that mental barrier. And I think that's a really commendable thing. So for anybody else out there that, go ahead.
Well, I was gonna say inside of our community, I think he probably has found a little bit more of a home because there's several artists. I mean, Manny Cartoon does that, and the Uncle Red has kind of that style. The Uncle Red is like a hardcore like skater. And does that kind of punk art stuff, and he's in the Slack channel. I don't know how much he shares in the gallery. I know he's listening to this right now, so just start sharing in your gallery. But I know he lives locally. We're friends locally.
Sure.
So there's a handful of people who don't fit the traditional
what's popular right now.
Yeah.
And I'm glad that he is contributing. And I hope that'll continue. And for anybody that feels that kind of barrier, that feels like they don't have like the community that's a bunch of people just like them, and certainly that's tough. But I would still encourage get in a community, be like have people that are encouraging you and that you're collaborating with, and do that. And then over time you will find that group. So these are killer. Check out the link to his Instagram will be in the show notes. So go check it out and pick up some stuff. I don't know if the stickers are for sale anywhere, But if they are, pick up some, or maybe if you reach out, maybe he's still sending some out. I have no idea, but go check him out. It's great stuff. I wanted to draw attention to two things that happened this week. So this was kind of a tough week in the community because two kind of big players in the community folded up shop on some level. And one of those was Mark Himian, who we actually talked on the show several months ago. So Mark Himian does Design Inc., and he talked with us on the shows, and its third iteration as far as kind of like its how it was going about running the business and things like that. Yeah. And I really don't think it had been around for much more than a year, and it just got to the point where they just had to say, you know what, it's not working, and they had to close it down. So Design Inc. is no more. It actually closed, I think, a couple months ago, and it's taken some time to actually go through the process of dissolving the company. And so there's an article, one thing that, and Mark even said this on the show, he's always been incredibly transparent, even sometimes maybe to his detriment, but he actually has a blog post up on his Medium. We'll share that in the show notes, but he talks about what all went into that decision. And, I think with any of this stuff, it's tough to read because there's a lot of people out there trying to make their dream a reality. Yeah. And it can be very easily discouraging. But at the same time, this is also knowledge that can help you maybe know how to navigate the waters you're in. So I would absolutely recommend reading it. I wouldn't shy away from it. Mark is very open. And I think that if, from what you read, you say, you know what, I would like to reach out and talk to Mark and those type of things, he would love to. He's he is an open book and he has a lot of wisdom to share. So very interesting. Mark is they actually when this closed, they left and they moved to Hawaii, and I think he's gonna be spending a bit more time with family and things like that. And I'm sure while he's working out his next venture, because this guy is a serial entrepreneur, so there will be something else.
Yeah, he's not done.
Oh yeah, he's not done. But the other one that I think this one may have been hit even closer to home would have been Huck G. So Huck G is a custom toy artist. I mean, he is, gosh, I've been trying to not everybody knows custom toys. I've been trying to describe him during the week when I've been talking to people. And
he's one of the godfathers of custom toy design. I mean, yeah, right, Luke? Would that be a fair?
Yeah, I mean, he's definitely one of the most well-known because he's been in it the longest.
And what he's contributed, not just to platforms that are available. I mean, when you talk about contribution to the Dunny or contribution, the Blank, which obviously is his platform, those type of things are huge. But just the products he's put out, the processes that he's pioneered, the toys he's created. I mean, hugely influential figure. And he was around during the heyday of custom toys. And this is actually something he cites. So he has a post called today. This will be in our show notes again, and it's on his blog. But basically, it's been 15 years, and he's decided that he's dissolving Huck G Inc., that it's run its course, that the market's just not there anymore. And as he's getting older, he needs to make sure that he's able to spend time with family and do those things. I say spend. I'm sorry, I didn't mean that way. He needs to make sure he's able to support family, and that he's able to kind of work towards being able to spend time with family and not just being overwhelmed with a lot of work for really what amounts to not enough payoff, basically. And so he goes into this. I'll be honest, it's a tough read. I mean, again, it's very honest. He goes right to the core of kind of what the issues have been and what his struggles have been and those type of things. But it is tough to read because, when a freelancer closes business, that's not great for everybody. But in the toy world, you have this feeling of if Huck can't make it, how does anybody make it? That's kind of I just feel like it hit really close for me, and I imagine there's some people in the community that are really struggling with this news. So, good on Huck for doing what's best for him and doing what's best for his family. That's certainly commendable. I hope that the market turns. I can't imagine that, again, this is the last thing that that Huck's never gonna carve out a custom toy again. Certainly he will. But I hope the market turns where he can go back to doing this. But for the time being, he's looks like he's moving on, basically trying to look for a job and carry on with life. So very tough read and some tough news. Luke, I mean, this seems like it's more in your realm.
Yeah.
How did this news strike you?
Well, it's definitely sad. I think he's I mean, he's obviously right. He knows the market and he knows that world, better than most people. I've definitely seen a shift in custom toys kind of going away. He's always been one of the guys that has been able to charge what he charges because, one, his work is so good, and two, it's so coveted. It's so his style is so easy for many different types of collectors to want. But yeah, I think that the custom toy world is taking just slowing down. We've even seen Joe Ledbetter kind of like branch off into other forms of art from custom toys. And we've seen a lot of those guys branch into different things that support that toy community that aren't necessarily toys, because it's really hard unless you have a publishing deal with somebody like Kid Robot or
Mighty Jacks
or dare I say Loyal Subjects or something. It's really hard to make any money because your audience, for one, is still very small compared to any other like created art form.
Sure.
But it's also a lot more people have jumped in, and then you have big companies like Funko that have kind of
Yeah, that's one thing that I noticed this past week. I took Cooper to Toys R Us, and almost an entire aisle with different variations of toys, not all just pop vinyls, but all sorts of different variations of pro-looking toys, all the way down to like really accessible pop vinyls. Funko is like taking over the market, and with their like headquarters.
It's not even good. Like they're fine.
But some of it actually is really good in my opinion.
Yeah, I know.
I think there's
I disagree.
really cool stuff.
Any of it is tough. I mean, just because what Huck does is so far beyond casting a toy, right? I mean, he's literally like, he's sewing and he's doing leather work and he's creating all these accessories. He has a whole story arc and a whole world built for these figures. I mean, it extends so far beyond, a vinyl toy or whatever the medium is, which is what makes it so special. And which is also the reason that it commands the price it does. So I hate it. I hate the market's not there. Again, I hope it comes back. It was tough news to hear, but hope I would love maybe in a couple weeks, hopefully we'll get an opportunity to talk with Huck and maybe hear an update on how things are going. So, but yeah, that's it. I think again that's another worthwhile post. You should give it a read and. Even if you're not involved with the community, just I think it's something you'll be able to connect with and maybe get a deeper understanding of again, some of the attitudes and things that drive freelance artists and what they have to deal with. So, yeah, I know that was long-winded, guys. I'm sorry. But Luke, why don't you pick it up?
Yeah, that's fine. I'm going to keep it really simple. Everything this week was Gen Con related, so I'll talk more about that later. But when I got back, I got something in the mail that I kickstarted, and I totally kind of forgot about. I got this thing called the Story Clock Notebook. It was put out by a filmmaker. His name's Seth Worley. He's also the same guy that helped Joey Ellis with his and Luke.
Leaky Timber.
Yeah, helped with Leaky Timbers. So he put out this Kickstarter for the Story Clock Notebook, and what it is a notebook that screenwriters can use to help fill out their story and kind of make sure that things make sense in a timeline. So you have on the left-hand side of your page, you have an area for notes, you guys aren't going to be able to see this because the camera is
Totally
junk.
blown out.
But it has an area for notes, an area for characters, an area for themes, and then on the right-hand side is this
Another white page.
for you, a clear white page, but on the page it has a circle with little hash marks for clock. And basically the idea is you're supposed to put plot points in that clock and kind of see, where is my story missing some elements. If, let's say, a main theme happens at 2 o'clock, at 5 o'clock, and at 9 o'clock, what are some things that could happen to get us from 2 to 5? And what are some things that the audience would need to fill in that would maybe make sense? If between 2 and 5, I'm trying to get to 5, but I need at 3 to show some things hinting towards 9, and it helps kind of fill out some of those pieces that you forget about until you're either in shooting or in storyboarding, that it's, okay, yeah, how do we get here? Or, oh, we never talked about this. Now we have to go back and rewrite stuff. So it's a nice little tool. Also included is a spot where you can watch a movie and kind of keep notes of how Hollywood big budget movies have done this and kind of what their timelines look like. And it was really cool. It's I think it was $10 for the Kickstarter. I got the notebook. It was all printed in Texas, in America. Obviously, well, in Texas, I guess it's still America.
In Texas, America.
But you can't get it right now. The pre-orders will open soon. If you go to storyclock.co, you can keep an eye there for when things go back on sale. Also included was this poster that was pretty funny. It's "Get Rich or Die Writing" was the poster, and it's well done. And then on the back, it has "This cat is doing it. Are you?" And it's just this really pulpy kind of it reminds me of the background's Saved by the Bell-ish.
Yeah, it looks the early 90s.
But this cat at a typewriter, and it's fade in, exterior, end of time, day, all humans are dead, cats are all that remained, fade out, the end. That's what the cat is writing the script. And it makes sense because I think cats are trying to take over the world because cats suck. But yeah, that was it. That was a nice surprise coming back from Gen Con. Storyclock.co. Check it out there. If you go to if you just search Storyclock Notebook, you'll find stuff from Seth. Film Riot has done a whole interview with Seth about it. The dude is hilarious. He's just a really good dude. So I supported it just because I like him and it was really cheap. But it's actually a really cool tool. So I'm excited to see how I can use it. Andrew.
Awesome.
Talk about your week.
Okay. So I'm happy to say I've gone a whole week injury-free. So my last day since injury is the tally mark keeps going up. I have it now in the studio. This is this many days without injury.
That means you haven't tried to hang a print in that many days, basically.
That's not true. I actually successfully hung a print. Yeah. So couple things. One, I have just been crazy busy, just nonstop working on going from one project to another, personal project, podcast projects, and then work project. But last week I talked about this. I haven't shown you the picture, or I didn't have them with me last week. I'm going to show you real quick. These are the stickers, the House Tyrell, the Mormont. There's the Stark one. You got some too, Patrick?
I did. It turns out I had some when you were talking about it. Not Cool had sent me a care package, and I don't know what happened, but I just missed them when I was going through it. And then after you talked about them, I went back through and I found the whole stack.
Yeah.
So thank you.
So they're incredible. So Luke, you're seeing them now, and they're they're good, and they're really high quality. So anyway, I didn't show them last week, so I showed them now. So I got a package that I ordered a bit ago from Mondo this week, and I'm pretty excited about. I got this Alamo Draft House pin. It's like an enamel pin of the Alamo Draft House, the marquee sign from the one in Austin, which is pretty sweet.
Yeah.
And then I got this.
That's the one Luke threw up at.
Yeah, and then I got this this cast pin as well from it's a film tin.
Yeah.
And it's 3D, like it's pressed metal, and it's got the pin backer on the back, so it's legit. And then those came along with my Atomic Blonde vinyl, which is super cool. It looks like at first glance, it looked like it was a photo like from the movie poster, but it's not. It's actually art from a guy named Ron Lesser. And I went to his website to look at his stuff because it's really unique, especially for Mondo. Like this inside, here's the inside cover.
Oh, yeah.
It looks like a photograph from the movie, but then if you look at it, it looks kind of like an impressionistic take on it. But Ron Lesser is kind of a little bit of a different artist for Mondo to work with. He does lots of historical artwork. It's pretty crazy. Like the stuff that he's done, the stuff that he's worked on, like traditional movie posters. Like
well, it looks like it would go in some like art, like education book or something.
Yeah, it looks like some of his work could be hung up in like the Library of Congress or whatever. So, so that's pretty sweet. But then the vinyls themselves, I'll pull one of them out. It's a 2-disc deal, but here are the vinyls themselves. Usually Mondo is good about posting what they look like on their website. This time they don't have any images of what they look like. So this is what they look like.
Oh man,
super!
Holy
it's
cow.
like neon yellow and blue, like super high res colors, in a kind of a tie-dye like pressing. And it totally fits the film vibe completely. So I'm excited to listen to it. It's mostly 80s music, but like I said, done in different languages and stuff. So I think that's all. I'm going to save some of the other stuff until later that happened this week because, man, it was a big week. And I think like what we did a couple of weeks ago, we're gonna save Game of Thrones conversation until post episode, kind of after like the credits and everything. So stick around for all of our thoughts and feelings about that. But for now, I think that's gonna be it for our Around the Table. So up next, let's talk about some master categories. The master categories section of every week is when we get to talk about the tokens we drew the week before. They gave us the categories, we picked the topics. Luke, why don't you kick things off for us?
Luke, can you kick this off for us?
What?
Well, he said us, but I didn't have a say in it, so I wanted to insert myself.
Oh, okay. So you agree? It should be me to talk first?
I'll allow it.
Okay, cool. Thanks. So Gen Con, right? I went to Gen Con, and it was amazing.
You found some people.
I found some people. I found our friend Jonathan, a.k.a. Bubba, a.k.a. Scrumblekins, a.k.a. John, a.k.a. whatever else his name is. So
Breaker
many
of
names.
Chains and blah, blah, blah. Yeah.
Breaker of Chains.
Chains. Father of Dragons.
Yeah. No, it was cool to see Bubba. He came with his friend Jeff, who I met, and we played some games together.
I know Jeff.
Yeah, it was awesome. It was really cool. But yeah, so I went to Gen Con. We decided to leave. So we decided to do our D&D night. Normally it's Friday, but we were going to be gone because we are going to be at Gen Con. So we decided to do a shortened D&D session on Wednesday.
Kind of like pre-gaming.
Yeah, pre-gaming, basically. And then we decided to leave right after and just drive to get to our Airbnb in the morning. And we would take a nap and then get there right when the doors opened. Well, that was great. Great idea. Except we got about half hour, 45 minutes down the road, and one guy realized...
How far is the drive?
5 hours. A little over 5 hours.
8 hours, right?
A little over
if
5 hours.
If I had to choose, it's probably about 8 hours.
5. A little over 5.
Sometimes I feel like you don't listen to me, Andrew.
We got about 45 minutes down the road, and somebody realized they forgot their pass to get into Gen Con. So we turned around.
Stupid idiot.
Yeah.
What a stupid idiot. Was it you? It was you.
No, mine was at will call. It was fine because I am smart. I don't do that kind of stuff. So we turned around, added another 45 minutes to the trip, actually another hour and a half by the time we got back to where we turned around at. And then we were on our way, and we got in at around... I don't know, 6 in the morning, and our Airbnb, we could not get in until 3. So we basically were stuck. We decided to go get breakfast, and I
Seems like you should have just left at like 9 a.m.
Yeah, no, yeah, probably. But the convention hall opened at 10, and there were a couple of games that everybody wanted to get. So we wanted to be in right when it opened to be able to beeline for those booths to get the games we wanted. So we went to breakfast, and I stayed up and went to bed around 5 p.m. and then woke up and played games till about 3. So I got in about 48 hours, I got about 4 hours of sleep total. So that was fun.
So it's like a normal weekend.
Yeah, right. But then, Gen Con was happening, and it was awesome. Saw so many awesome games, played a lot of demos of games coming out. So if you don't know, normally what Gen Con is now and kind of what it's evolved into is kind of a showcase for game designers and publishing companies of games that are coming out. And there's a lot of games that release at Gen Con, but for the majority anymore, it's this game is coming, or this game will be kickstarting in the fall, or this game it will be available on our website in a month or 2 months or next year, or this is an idea we have. And you play all these games, give feedback, and then you see them trickle out over the course of the year. So I played a lot of games that aren't out yet, a lot of games that might not come out for a while, and then a lot of games that sold out at the con that you're going to have to wait a couple months to get. And it was a blast. It was 50th year, so it was the biggest crowd, over 200,000 people this year, over 60,000 unique tickets, something like 150 or 130,000 event ticket signups. So like workshops, panels, all kinds of stuff like that. There were so many people in Indianapolis. It was crazy downtown. But like every year, everybody's super chill, super nice. It was just a bunch of nerds that just want to come and play games. So you didn't see people like getting mad or yelling at people at booths. There was no like even games that were like selling out every day. So there's a couple of companies that had games. They would sell off a portion of them every day. If you get there at like
the stock that they have.
Of the stock that they have, yeah. So 10 o'clock, the convention hall opens. 10:30, all those games are gone. So you see people come up and say, I want that game. I'm like, sorry, we sold out. And it wasn't like, why don't you bring more, blah, blah, blah. It was just like, okay, I'll try tomorrow. Everybody was really nice.
So you were saying these tend to be pre-release games, or these are games that they're still like testing or whatever. So are people selling games that aren't even available to the really general public yet?
Yeah. So one of the hot games this year, one of the best reviewed games right now on Board Game Geek, is a game called Professor Evil in the Citadel of Time. And
okay.
Yeah, it's made by Passport, the same company that does Quartz.
Mm-hmm.
That game,
I've heard someone talk about that game. Why have I heard someone talk about that game?
I don't know, but it released at Gen Con. It's not available to purchase yet on their website, not until September. It'll actually release to the public, but they were selling copies every day. A friend that I went with was able to get one. I was not able to get one because I went to a different booth in the morning and then never made it back in time the following days. But that game is fantastic. It's so fun.
How much is he selling his on eBay for?
I think the artist of this game is, correct me if I'm wrong, I believe the artist of this game is Bibone. He's the same guy who does... It is Bibone. He's the same guy who does that game I just recently talked about that I purchased. Oh my gosh, Niet.
Oh, cool. Yeah. Okay.
He did Dice Forge and Niet.
Nice.
Yeah.
Well, the art style is fantastic. It's amazing. It's kind of like a steampunk Clue, kind of overclocked a little bit. It has a lot of time travel, no pun intended, I guess. But it's a very, very fun game. It's a cooperative game. Everybody is working together to stop this professor from stealing all these artifacts from this mansion, and you have to go through and turn on and turn off like security cameras and lasers and trapdoors and all kinds of stuff. and he moves around the board.
This game?
Yeah. My friend bought it, so we played it one night. It was really fun.
That's awesome.
But yeah, for the most part, Gen Con was amazing. It was a blast. Some really fun things. I made a foam weapon. I posted a picture. I was at Lucas Oil Stadium. It was cool being on the field. Like, I mean, it was covered with like regular floor. It was covered with oil. It was everywhere. Just a mess. No, but it was cool being. I'd never been like in a domed field. I guess I had been in the Georgia Dome for like Catalyst one year, but never actually like down on the field to see it. And it was cool. It was very cool being in that.
You sign up to go like sit down and play games at different booths?
There's so much stuff to do. So the way it works in the convention hall, you can go and stand in line for demos, or you can just some companies, you just walk up, and if they have a free spot, you can sit down and play a demo of a game. There's other places where you can sign up for actual full playthroughs. Most of the ones in the convention hall are like a 10 to 15 minute intro to the game, and they kind of take you through a little scenario where you take everybody takes a turn, and they kind of give you basic rules. You can play a full playthrough of the game if you buy tickets, and in the evening they'll do full in-depth demos that you can buy tickets to. All the different game companies have those, but generally it's you just come and you play a short little demo of a game.
Can I ask you about a specific game before you move on? So did you I saw this got announced because of Gen Con. I guess they were doing some play testing of it. It's not even out on Kickstarter yet.
Yeah.
But by the same people, it's called Ankama is the game maker.
Okay.
They're the same people who do Crossmaster Arena.
Yeah.
That game that has those really cool figures and stuff.
Yep.
It's a new game called Monster Slaughter. Did you play it?
I didn't play it. I saw it. It's the one where the monsters you play the monsters and you're attacking and trying to kill the people inside the house. Yeah.
Yes. And the house is actually a 3-dimensional house.
Yep.
Like the board is dimensional plus the little plastic figures.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, it looks amazing.
It's awesome. It's
and
awesome.
And the board
looking.
Is round. Like it's a round board instead of, oh gosh, I can't wait.
Yeah, and your movement, you have like, not waves is not the right word, but you move from the outside of the house towards the house. And you have different abilities that let you get into the house to kind of kill the people inside.
It looks amazing.
It does. I wanted to play it. I just never had time to like stop to try it out.
Sure, yeah.
But I played a lot of really cool games. I saw Keymaster. Their booth was amazing.
It looked cool.
Kyle and Maddox and Josh, they were all just there having a blast. A lot of people really receptive. I got my copy of Campy Creatures, and we played that a couple times. That's such a fun game.
When should it be shipping? Like, when should I expect mine?
I don't know. I got mine.
I should have had you pick up mine. Well, I guess it'd
been the same difference. I mean, yeah. I know they have them all, and I imagine now that they're back from Gen Con, all the rest of the fulfillment will go out to people.
Yeah.
But they set Gen Con pickup. If you're going to be there, you could pick up your game. So I did.
That's awesome.
I got a game called Dragonfire. It's the same company. It's Catalyst Games that make a card game called Shadowrun, and it's a deck building kind of game, but it's all themed around Dungeons and Dragons. So you have all of these generic type of characters and classes that you have in Dungeons and Dragons. You build decks around them, and you kind of fight monsters. Really,
it's actually sanctioned Dungeons and Dragons.
Yeah, it's licensed. Yep, through WotC or Wizards of the Coast. I got the Big Book of Madness, which is an ELO game. It's another deck builder where you play students who are trying to seal these monsters back in this magical tome, and it's cooperative. I played that one with Jeff and Bubba. We played a couple games of that. It's really fun. Very easy to learn. It's a complex game, but once you kind of learn the mechanics, very easy, and you play through it.
It's called Wizards of the Madness?
Nope, it's called Big Book of Madness.
Oh, Big Book of Madness. I'm like, I can't find this game at all.
Yeah. I played another game, and this is kind of the one. there's two more games. One called Dark Deeds that is it's another card game where everybody plays like a rogue, and you have this mat that rolls out that's like a street, and these cards spawn on the street, and it's like a cleric or a guard or an artisan or somebody that works in the market, and you can steal from them, or you can attack a guard, and you gain loot by doing that, and you also gain suspicion. And the idea is that you want to try and gain the most loot as a thief without raising the most suspicion to be arrested and lose some of your treasure and stuff like that. And it's a really fun mechanic, really easy to kind of learn. So we played a couple games of that. Then the other game, the game that I was probably between Professor Evil and Citadel of Time and this game were my two favorite games I played this year. I played this game called Unearth, and it's by Brotherwise Games. It is a worker placement game, which basically what that means is you have different characters that you put in different spots on the board that do things to try and earn you points or resources or victory points or what have you. The art style is amazing.
The game's called Unearth?
It's called Unearth. And it looks very much, the art style kind of reminds me of the
iOS game?
Yeah, that I just had it before we started. I can't remember what it's called now.
I'll find it. You keep going.
Yeah, it's so the way the game works is you set out these tiles. Monument, yeah. Uncanny Valley, yeah. It was the other one, wasn't it? So you set out these cards that are different, like buildings that you try and build, and your workers that you have to place are dies. So everybody gets a D8, 3D6, and a D4, and you roll them. And based on what you roll is how much power and influence they have in the area. So you roll and you set them on a location, and that location has a certain threshold. And once between everybody's dice it hits that threshold, whoever has the highest can claim that, and they get a certain amount of points. And at the end of the game, there's different colors of these. You get certain points for matching the colors. You get certain points for having other buildings that you've built. And the cool mechanic around it, it has these little tokens that go on each building that look like different resources. So you have like a fire thing, or it's like hay, and then there's like water and coal. And what they do is you build them on your board. It's going to be really hard to kind of show this.
Looks like Minecraft.
Yeah, kind of. So you build like these hexagonal kind of boxes, and then inside is where you put your like auxiliary buildings. Like they go in here, and once you build around them, you get certain bonuses based on what type of building you have, and then you get.
So it's a little bit like Catan in some of the resource stuff like that.
Yes.
And then it's a little bit like Monopoly.
Yeah, kind of.
Okay.
Yep.
So it's kind of a combination of the two with a cool.
Plus, it's like
art
a
style.
really miniature version of Catan because the hexagonal pieces are like 1/10 scale.
Yes, they are like they're the size of so just to help for our listeners who are driving right now. Think of an oyster cracker. That's exactly
Yeah,
the
generally.
size.
Like your play.
Maybe slightly bigger than that. It's more like a pin, just a standard pin.
No, at Costco they sell
10%
huge oyster
larger,
crackers?
oyster crackers. Yeah.
Oh, okay, cool.
They call them +10s.
Plus 10. That's a good one. But yeah, so that's I can't recommend that game enough. It's really fun. It's gorgeous. It's really simple. It's only 4 players, so if you have a big group, it won't work. But 2 to 4, and it's a really fun play. So check out Unearth or Professor Evil in the Citadel of Time. I talked to the guys at Passport, and we might be able to get one of them on the show. So maybe we'll talk about that later. But yeah, made all kinds of connections. Hopefully we'll have a lot more game developers, designers on the show in the near future. Gen Con was a blast. If you like board games at all, go to it. It's just so fun. And there's something for everyone. If you like card games, you're set. If you like board games, if you like real-time like strategy games, if you like LARPing, like anything having to do with gaming, they have you set. And everybody is super nice.
Just not video gaming.
No, there's video gaming. There's a 24-hour area that you can go in and play.
One N64 they have plugged up. And as long as the controller's empty, you can jump on.
Right. No, they have a whole section. They have all kinds of tournaments going on for like Halo or Overwatch or Paragon or whatever MOBA that you play or anything. They had a big game tournament sign up for that, and that was packed all weekend too. So it's awesome. They have painting challenges, role playing. I played a couple D&D sessions with random people in Adventure League. That was really fun. Yeah, man, Gen Con was a blast. I'll post a little video, something short in the next couple days, kind of like a recap. Andrew, what was yours?
So I had art and design, and I'm gonna keep it brief this week. I think I'm keeping it brief on both fronts. I think it's good though because Patrick, you had a little bit of a longer around the table, and Luke had a little bit of a longer master.
This
category.
is my way of
like,
slowly edging y'all both out of the show. I figure if I keep making my category longer and longer,
I'll eventually just have to be quiet, and I'll just have to always just hand over my time to someone else. That's fine.
Yeah, exactly.
That's fine. This is only going to be a couple minutes, but I had art and design, and I recently went to a leadership conference 2 weeks ago, I think it was, and there was a speaker there who was incredible. And initially, I walked through like the resource area because they have the wherever all the speakers come and they bring all their books and everything. And so I'm going to talk about a book, and his name is I don't know if it's Frederick or if it's Friedrich. He's German. Friedrich Heron. For the rest of this, I'm going to call him Friedrich because I think that's right, but I could be wrong. Heron. And I saw his book before I heard him talk, and I saw this book, and it's half content, half blank pages. Not like literally the first half is content, the second half is blank pages, but like interspersed throughout the book is this thing. So it's called
like
the Idea Book.
Blank.
Like blank. So you have some pages, you have full centerfold, and then you have full blanks that are kind of interspersed throughout the book.
Don't hate that. Sounds good.
Yeah, it makes you. Yeah, you'll definitely be able to finish it a lot quicker. But at first I saw it and I was like, that's lame. Like that's like in my mind I thought that was stupid. It was kind of kitschy and kind of whatever. But then I heard the talk, and it made so much more sense. And his talk. So this is gonna be a little bit of a public service announcement, but it's gonna also be just kind of a plug for this book. I would usher you to go get one of these books. It's hardcover. It's nice. It's foiled on the front. It's very simplistic in nature. It's solid black. It's kind of got that you can hear it. Kind of that fabric covered hardcover, and then it's got silver leaf letter pressed in. But what I like about this book is it's generated from this idea that creativity is so elusive. People think that creativity is this elusive thing, and you have to be. It's so intimidating, and that people feel like you can do creativity wrong, right? And that idea, and that there are these creative professionals who are professionally creative, and that those are the only people who should be allowed to do things. And his point in saying this, in making his assertions at the very beginning, he said, I know, he talked about this idea of this person who real creativity comes when you innovate and you take one idea that's already there, another idea that's already there, and think of one idea that can combine those two, but do it in a way that's never been thought of before. And he talks about this designer who tried to solve a problem multiple problems, but what his design was a urinal with a sink on top of it. And the idea was that that a couple of things would happen. One, you would save time washing your hands while you're there. Two, you would be more inclined to wash your hands, and so cleanliness and health increase, because apparently men don't wash their hands after they go to the bathroom, or at least a portion of them don't, but that would increase.
That's gross.
Two, it would be economically friendly, because what you would do is, an earth conscious, the water that from the sink would be the water that would flush your pee.
the urinal.
Yes, exactly. And so it was just this idea that people initially thought that it was crazy, thought that it was weird, but it saved time, it saved water, and it was more, hygienic or whatever. And that is true creativity, when something can solve a problem and multiple problems at once and look at it from a different angle. So he said, essentially, I know you're hearing this and you're thinking, well, but what, like, you need to prove your credibility with me. So here's what I did. He said, I wrote a book about it. And he said, and what I did was, he's like, I know everyone has their favorite sketchbook or their favorite notebook, and then everyone has their favorite book that they like to read that's inspirational. I took a notebook and I took a reading book and I smashed them together. And
it turned into that? He's a wizard.
And the idea of it was, he said, now, before you think that I haven't done anything spectacular, he starts running off the numbers. And he said, an average book, he said a common misconception is that something hard, like the printed book is dead or it's dying because of what?
E-readers.
E-books.
Right. That is the common assumption that's why books, like printed books, are dying. And he said that's not true. The actual truth is e-readers have very little to do with it. It has everything to do with your phone. Being connected on your phone, instead of reading, you're checking Facebook, you're checking an email, you're checking whatever. You're not spending the time that you would have been reading on an ebook. You're spending the time that you could be reading doing other things, staying connected on your phone. And so he makes this assertion. He backs it up with all this like scientific statistics.
That's my favorite kind.
Yeah.
Science.
But it's a really interesting concept. And he said you would think that this would be a bad idea. And he said, but actually what's happened is people who generally write a book, people who write just a book that is sold to people, that is inspirational and self-help and whatever you want to call it, they tend to sell, like a good book sells about 30,000 copies. Like that book is considered a success.
That's a lot.
And he said, if I had written this book, and so he self-published it, if I had written this book and done this, I could have been happy to have gotten that many. He said, but by taking this idea and meshing, he said, when you talk to companies about outfitting their teams or outfitting their leadership with books, the budget for most companies for buying books for their leadership is usually pretty low. Now, notebooks don't fall into leadership category. Notebooks fall into the stationery category, and like office supply budget, which tends to be significantly larger for companies. And so what he did was he combined these two ideas, and now his book has sold like 100,000 copies in Germany and like 90,000 copies in France and whatever, because he decided to take these two ideas and mesh them together. And so his book is all about that. And the idea behind the book, it says on the back, 150 page about ideas and 150 empty pages for your own. It's a really interesting take on that. And so I've started reading it. It's cool. Like there's some parts of it that aren't even like full, like they're just quotes, to like inspirational quotes and things. But I think it's so unique. And this idea that when I first walked in and saw the book, that this was just a kitschy way to try to, to make your book look bigger. I don't think that was the intention at all. And the intention behind it, I think, is one that shows kind of the creativity behind it. And so I'm really anxious and really interested to read the words from this man, because he's very, very he thinks differently than most people, and he thinks differently than me. So I'm excited to read it.
How far through are you?
I'm like not even through the first part of it. Like,
Did you write any ideas yet?
not yet.
I'm excited to see when you're done what your takeaway is.
Yeah, I'll do a follow up on it. It's 150 pages of reading. I think I could probably tackle that pretty quickly. So, anyway, the idea book, you can find a link for it on show notes. And if you get the idea book, post it, tag us in it, and then I want to see some of the stuff that you come up with inside of the blank pages. So, all right, Patrick, take us to the finish line.
Yeah, absolutely. So I have TV and film. We were blessed this week to receive our normal categories. I think I just said the word "our" pretty weirdly. So
After you
watched
said blessed.
So I actually managed to watch several films this week. I think I made it to like 6 films. But the one the new one, the highly anticipated one, was Logan Lucky. This is the Steven Soderbergh film featuring Channing Tatum, Adam Driver,
Daniel Craig.
Right, Hilary Swank, and then some people that I don't care about. For instance, Seth MacFarlane
and Katie Holmes.
Yeah, and the idea is that it's a heist film. I mean, that's what it is. It's the Lucky siblings, and they've decided that they want to rob a NASCAR event, and that's the basis for the film, and it's them going through the planning and execution of that, and the colorful characters of West Virginia. So watching the film, let me just go and say it's absolutely worth a watch. I mean, I definitely enjoyed it. I don't know that it was a complete home run for me. Like, I don't know that I would say it was like 10 out of 10, but I think it's like probably a solid like 8 or 8.5. The film, and there's not going to be any spoilers, so I mean I didn't give away anything that's not in the trailer. The film does manage to be decently smart in the execution of everything, and it doesn't. I think I have a bit of a complaint that some heist films deviate either pretty far from reality, or what will happen is that the heist films rely on so many uncontrolled variables happening to work out. It's very rare to watch a heist film where you really feel like the people are in control of the situation, and I enjoyed the way this was approached, and I enjoyed the balance and everything. I also like that not much is revealed. I mean, basically, you don't know what's going on until it's going on. So that being said, you're left in the dark the entire film, and it's not revealed to the end kind of what actually happens. So that's also nice too. In the interplay between, I should say this, the characters themselves. I mean, they're fun characters. Now, on the note of the location and the accents, the thing that was surprising to me is the best accent in the film. Now, my pedigree, I'm born and raised Middle Georgia. And I don't mean like Atlanta, Georgia. That's not what I said. I said Middle Georgia, and town that didn't have a stoplight. I understand that I don't have much of an accent. All of my cousins sound like Boomhauer, and we grew up 10 minutes from each other. So I don't know how this is how I ended up, but I promise you this is not indicative.
You're not typical
of my pedigree. And so that being said, I grew up in Middle Georgia. I would assert that Middle Georgia is not terribly different than West Virginia, at least the portion that they're referring to. And so I know a lot of the characters, and the best accent of the bunch was actually Daniel Craig, which is hilarious. But he had the accent that I would say was most true to the kind of person that was being displayed. It's very easy in that case to play a stereotype of someone as opposed to playing the actual accent. Daniel Craig nailed it. The other person that nailed it was Adam Driver. Those were absolutely the two best accents in the film, but specifically Daniel Craig, I have 20 relatives that sound like that guy did in that film. Amazing. The other thing that stands out to me is dialogue. So there were parts that did not ring true, and there were parts that did. Earlier in the film was tougher for me because the dialogue just again, it didn't ring true for my experiences growing up in the area that I did. So that made it a little tougher. That kind of brought me out of the film a few times because I felt suspicious of what was being said. But that being said, as you get farther in the film, it becomes much more natural. And then I stopped thinking that way once I probably got 25% of the way into the film. I started forgetting about those instances. So, and again, certain characters, that's not the case. They're just specific people that, I don't know if it was the script that was written or if it was the execution of the voice, but they were just certain people that were a bit tougher to believe in that role. Now, nobody compares to Seth MacFarlane when it comes to not fitting in a role.
Oh my gosh, right?
It doesn't make any sense to me. Like this film, I would have ranked this film maybe a letter grade higher if it wasn't Seth MacFarlane.
Really?
But all of his interactions were painful. It felt like a guy that found a box of like props on the floor, threw a couple of them on, and then like I assume it literally, I couldn't decide if he was British or not. Like I was trying to decide what this accent was that I was hearing because it was an accent, but I didn't know what it was and what he was wearing and what he was saying, and it was such a mismatch. But he felt like he was playing pretend. Daniel,
it felt like his what was the movie 10 Ways to Die in the West? It felt like that. It felt satirical, but not like overtly satirical, like campy. The whole movie is satirical. I think that his character played campy, and it did not. It was off-putting to me. Every time he was on screen, I was like, oh, please be done.
Yeah, and not even because there's some arguments that because of his character you should have felt that way, but not for those reasons. The reality is it was a terrible mismatch. He should not have been in the film. And for what his role was, you could have cast a no-name and it wouldn't have mattered because he's just not important to the film. It did not make sense. Seth MacFarlane, if you're listening, that was awful, and you should have willingly stepped out because you were outmatched.
We'll send you a scheduling link and we can chat with you on the show.
Yeah, absolutely. We'll be happy to.
About your poor decisions.
So I struggle with Seth MacFarlane, and the other one, honestly, I struggled with Hilary Swank's character. That was the other one that was really tough for me because she
was the opposite spectrum. Like her character was too serious. It didn't
for
fit
the film that she was in.
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah.
So those were just two and I think that again, if those two things were corrected, I think if the dialogue earlier in the film felt a bit more true to the area, then I think I would have jumped up to this is a 9 out of 10 for me, or a 9.5 out of 10 because it had so many awesome moments. And again, any time that you're just looking at Channing Tatum, Daniel Craig, Adam Driver, when it's the three of them on screen, it's just magic. It's awesome.
It is. It's so good. So I can forgive all of that. Honestly, I forget about Seth MacFarlane's character. I can forgive the film for that because of how good the other elements were. The acting was great, and I thought the writing was great, and it was hilarious. There were moments the theater that I saw it in, in the middle of the day, so there wasn't very many people in there, and I was audibly maybe in the theater the loudest person laughing at times, but it was so funny. The comedy, there's a whole bit about Game of Thrones, and oh my gosh, I can't wait for Luke to see it, and I can't
It'll
wait.
be amazing. Andrew, I'll tell you after the show, there's one moment that no one in the theater was laughing. No one was laughing. And it was the funniest thing, and I was howling laughing just by myself.
It might be the time that happened to me too, because there was a time where I'm the only one laughing, but this is freaking hilarious. Everyone else in this room is stupid for not laughing at this.
But there was there was so much humor, and I will say it was never it wasn't quippy. It wasn't one-liners. It was
situational, 100% situational,
and it felt very, very genuine. So for that part, if I could just ignore Seth MacFarlane and forget, honestly, maybe about the first 20 minutes of the film, then awesome movie. It was just tough. It felt slow to get going, and then every time MacFarlane was on the screen, it just pulled me out of the film. So, but again, totally worth watching. So don't let anything I said deter you from watching it all. It's frankly the best film that's in theaters now. I didn't get a chance to see Hitman's Bodyguard. It's on my list for this week.
Yeah, me too.
And we have a couple of good ones. I mean, we have Wakefield is out on iTunes right now. That film looks amazing. Wind River is now in theaters. That's going to be, please, like, if I remember right, Wind River is the same writer as Hell or High Water. And that's now out right now. So there's some awesome movies like, and frankly, from here through the end of the year, every week we're going to have great stuff. But right now, if you're going to make a night of it, I would say if you want some levity, if it's date night, or you just want to see a cool heist film, then absolutely go check out Logan Lucky at your nearest whatever. And you know what? Maybe use MoviePass to buy it, because MoviePass is $9.95. We never said that on the show, but they dropped their prices to $9.95 a month no matter where you live. So you can see...
Pissing everybody off.
It's incredible. And here's the thing. Just so you know, the AMC threatened to not accept MoviePass. The owner of MoviePass said, we'll change the color of the card and we'll take our name off of it so they don't know what it is. Like, he is 100. He's like, it's a MasterCard. They can't refuse it, and we will circumvent whatever systems they put in place. So he is like, you got power behind you. So
nice.
The website sucks, the onboarding sucks, the app sucks, but $10 to
But what does AMC? What does AMC care? Because that doesn't matter to them, right? I mean,
the idea. So that's what I would think, because you get butts in the seat. You're going to sell concessions. You make your money off concessions anyway, not off the film. And you're still getting paid for the ticket.
Right, they're getting paid for the ticket. The people taking the hit on this are MovieCo. Nope, not MovieCo. MoviePass, yeah.
AMC's, what they're saying is that MoviePass will be a flash in the pan, that they can't sustain this, and they're going to create unrealistic price expectations. And when MoviePass folds, AMC is going to have to
lower their price of tickets
fight the expectations. So that's what they're saying is their reasoning. There's some other people that are speculating.
Well, it's the beginning of the end already. We're not super far away from just being able to release movies right to your home. It's going to happen soon.
I mean, between with what Amazon's doing, Netflix is
movie
doing,
theaters are holding on just by a thread almost anyway.
Sure. I mean, don't get me wrong. I think the movie experience is incredibly important, and there are theaters
absolutely
like Dunkirk. Do not see that at home. You should see that in the theater.
Well, you can see it at home, but also you should have seen it in the theater.
Yeah, there are movies you absolutely should see in theater.
Yeah.
You know, Logan Lucky is one of those that if you see it at home, that's a perfectly good place to watch it. You're still going to get just as much out of it. So, but that's like a whole other big conversation. But it's $10. They promise that price for a year. That's a no-brainer, so you should go do it. So, Andrew, please take it back from me. Let's get out of here.
Okay, we're going to get out of this episode. There is so much stuff that you need to do. Check out mofonepodcast.com for all the show notes and links to the stuff we talked about in this episode, which is quite a few things. Pick up a game or two, pick up a book, go see a movie. That's what this show is all about, showing you and telling you about all this new stuff. But there is something new you need to do as well, besides going to iTunes and subscribing, which you should already do, but if you're new to the show, go and do that first. The show comes to you twice a week, every week, Tuesday and Thursday. Today's episode is Master Category episode. On Thursdays, we release our Sandbox interview episodes. Subscribe, and it makes it really simple. Rate and review on iTunes. It's super helpful for us. Anytime you rate and review, it doesn't cost you any money. It costs you very little time, but it helps us out tremendously for you to do that. But there is something new that you need to do. Master of One podcast is now officially on YouTube. And so what you need to do, head over to YouTube, youtube.com/Master of One. Is that what it is? Is that the link? We don't have a link yet. That's where you come in.
We need you to get that link.
That's where you come in. So we want the link to become M of One or youtube.com/M of One podcast. But we can't do that until we get you to subscribe. So we're already a third of the way there. Listen to this episode, go immediately over to YouTube and search Master of One. You can also find a link for it on our website.
You can search M of One podcast also.
Yep, and you'll see it in the show notes and all this stuff. Go find a way to get to this. Subscribe to the channel, and right now we're backlogging with lots of archive episodes as of this episode release date. We've been dropping an episode every day since episode 70 to get us all caught up, but we promise mid-September, there is going to be new content that you will only see on YouTube. So go there. This will shift from an audio-only format to maybe you might be able to see our faces or something like that. Is that enough of a tease, or is that pretty much just front door saying we're switching to video?
That's great. Yeah, that's awesome.
So it's going to be a good time. But go now and subscribe. That will help us get our custom URL set. And that will be amazing. So go do that. Get those likes. Share it with your friends because we are on YouTube. Go find us on all the other platforms as well. Search M of One Podcast on all the different socials, and you'll find us. Join the conversation there. Find us on Slack. Go to mofonepodcast.com/Slack to join the conversation and be a part of this amazing community that we've talked about several times already in this episode. But join the conversation in there. There is a fantastic community, and it's growing every single day. Each and every week, we get more and more people in there sharing their ideas, sharing their work, and it's a great, great time. We are going to move out of this portion of the episode. So if you've not seen Game of Thrones, now is the time for you to hang up. Go do all that stuff that we just said. Hang up this phone. You don't hang up the phone. You don't hang up your phone when you're done listening. I think you just press stop, right? But if you have seen this week's episode of Game of Thrones, then stay tuned for an in-depth conversation about what the heck just happened. But for now, I'm Andrew.
I'm Patrick.
And I'm Luke.
Peace out.
Bye.
Hold on to your butt.
Put
Okay.
them in your butts and hold it.
So, let's just talk about Game of Thrones for a minute.
So I want to. Can I add structure to this conversation?
Please
I have something
please.
specific I want.
Otherwise, this will go on for 6 hours.
I know, and that it just can't.
Can't do that,
guys.
Happen,
we have to do other things. But here's the thing. I want us to establish. Okay, we can do one of two things. I'll let y'all choose. We'll do some democracy here. One is we can say what we believe is going to happen at King's Landing next episode. So we can say, like, based on who's heading there, like this is the how we think that's going to play out. Two, we could pair up people in a who kills who or who dies with who. So it's basically like take the current cast of characters and how are they going to resolve when it's over. Like those are the two things that I think would be really fun right now.
When it's all over, or when this episode
when it's all
ends?
over. So because I think there's a lot of natural pairs right now.
Wait, when it's all over, the whole thing or just this season?
The whole thing.
Oh.
Because like we have the pairs of the Cleganes, Brienne and Tormund, obviously Daenerys and Jon Snow, Jaime Tyrion, Jaime Cersei, Sansa Arya. So
the Hound Arya.
Sansa Littlefinger.
So that's one game. One game is that we pair people up and say how we think that pair is going to end.
Littlefinger, and then
but the second one is what do we think
girl
happens
possible.
At King's
Let's just talk
Landing.
about next week. Let's save that conversation until this season's over.
Awesome.
Yeah,
So
let's see how this this season ends, and then we can.
Let's speculate what happens next week, and also what happened this week.
So let me set up what I know about next week. What I think I know about next week as far as who's going to be there. If the remainder of the hunting party is heading there, and if Sansa sends Brienne in her place, then that means Brienne and Tormund. Well, it means Brienne and potentially Podrick will be in King's Landing. It means Tormund.
I thought Podrick was staying behind.
Yeah, I thought so too.
Sansa
I know.
said,
I know. Sansa was saying I don't need him, but that doesn't necessarily mean he's not.
I'm just saying if Sansa gets what she asked for.
Okay. All right.
Potentially, Brienne and Pod are going.
Free
hunting
pod.
part. It would be Daenerys. It would be Tyrion, which those we know because we already saw them there. It would be Jon Snow, I imagine. It would be not Jon?
No, we saw him there.
Yeah. It would be Tormund, potentially, assuming that they take their prisoner. It would be Tormund. It would be the Hound. I don't know if it'd be Gentry. I mean, I guess he's alive, but I don't know that we saw him there, but that's
it would make sense for him to be there.
So Gendry. And then the guy with the eye patch. I can never remember his name.
Fire
sword, lightsaber guy.
Yeah, exactly. So did I miss anybody, or is that like all the characters that would be headed to King's Landing?
Well, you didn't say Jamie, but Jamie's going to be there.
Well, Jamie and Cersei are there. Yeah. Absolutely.
Beric.
Yeah, though, and you have to assume that Bronn is going to be there as well if Jamie's there.
Sure.
Okay. I think we'll see Tormund, Jamie and Cersei, Tyrion, Dany, Jon, Jorma, and that's about it. I don't think we're going to see a lot of the whole hunting party. I think this is more of like the leaders, quote unquote, and kind of it's them talking about how we handle this this outside threat to everyone.
Well,
So what makes
I think
sense?
specifically we'll see the hunting party because of that. Because the hunting
All of
party
them?
is going to. I think so. I think they're going to bring back their
The prisoner.
Right.
the White Walker, and I think that's what. Now here's the problem with maybe some of my reasoning. They all got saved by Dany, so it's possible that they've now dispersed come this point.
Right.
Because
That's what I'm thinking.
They set a send off to the Hound at the end of that.
Right.
At the end of that deal, so it's possible that they might not make it. But Jon will be there because Jon is the king of the North. So
No, yeah, we saw that. We saw that in the preview.
I know. But it didn't sound like you said Jon. But maybe
No, I
just
did
missed
say.
it.
I thought
Okay.
I did.
Okay.
So I'll say this. I think Sansa making the comment that the safest place for her to be was Winterfell,
Yeah.
and I think potentially her ascending Brienne. I think this sets up something terrible happening to Sansa. Like, I think something big's got to happen there. It needs to be a big cliffhanger. I think that we're gonna see some Game of Thrones fashion shock value, and I feel like the foreshadowing is leading to Sansa being the victim of that.
Yeah, potentially some of the foreshadowing. I think so. What happened with it could go either way. It could go between her or Arya in that fashion. Obviously, she was trying to get everyone out. She was trying to get Brienne out specifically so that nobody would interfere between her and Arya, implying to me that she has ill intent toward Arya.
Yeah.
But then she found more than she bargained for, finding the faces. And then I think she's truly terrified of Arya at this point. And I think also the general population feels about Arya like how I feel about Arya, and I have felt for a long time. So I think we got a lot more Sansa supporters after this week because of how Arya was so incapable of trusting her sister.
I don't know that I support Sansa anymore, and I don't know that I think we saw Arya as immature. I think we saw Arya be a kid a bit, in the same way that she was accusing Sansa of, failing to stand up for the family, and Sansa was saying, because I was a kid. I think Arya's overreacting is also because she's still a kid in a lot of ways, even though
if something happens to her, I
actions would say
think
that.
it will be. I think it could possibly be Arya at Arya's hand. Just depends on how that whole thing comes to a head.
So are you thinking, do you think there's any world where Jon comes back to Winterfell before going to King's Landing?
No.
I don't think so. And that's the thing. Tyrion recognizes the same way Daenerys. Well, I don't know, because I'm not sure how much convincing Tyrion actually did. But Tyrion, Daenerys, Jon, they all recognize Jon put himself. He basically walked out on a ledge when he went and met Dany for the first time because she could have just taken him as a prisoner and not let him go.
Sure.
Daenerys is about to do the same thing with Cersei, and by Tyrion's urging of saying, like, look, you're no better than someone else if you lay a bunch of traps and have these backup plans. You need to show that you're really putting yourself out there and that you're the one that's, kind of extending the hand. So Jon understands that, Daenerys understands that, Tyrion understands that, and all of them are headed to King's Landing. They recognize that, yes, they could just wipe them off the map, or yes, they could create more horror or whatever, but they could also step up, take the step towards the world they want to see, and then hope they have enough support through people like Jaime and like other people that are around and just in the force that's been shown up to this point that they can convince Cersei. And they also, I'm sure, recognize that it's in Cersei's best interest as well, at least for the time being, to have allies with them. Sansa is the one that's doing the opposite of that. She's saying, she's literally too afraid to go. She's saying that I'm going to hole up here in Winterfell and I'm not going to go. She's not showing herself to have the same level of leadership that Jon and Dany and these people are taking by choosing to stay and reject this invitation, even though this invitation could be a step towards kind of uniting the kingdoms, even if it's just for a short time against a greater common foe. So that's the reason I think Sansa's going to suffer for it. I think that she's the one that stands to lose a lot this episode. You know, I also have to imagine that Cersei still wants to see Tyrion dead, even knowing that Tyrion didn't kill Joffrey. I don't know that softens the blow at all, or softens her emotions towards Tyrion.
I mean, she's a psychopath. She has already made up her mind. Yeah,
and I think Tyrion is probably struggling a bit too at what is his actual contribution as the hand to Daenerys, because I mean, even this last episode,
especially after this episode,
where she's pretty much like, I listened to you and that was a big mistake, so I'm not going to listen to you this time. So part of me wonders if this puts Tyrion on the chopping block a bit, because he's got to be feeling down on himself, right? He's got to be feeling less than. He's not sure that he has any respect or that he has any whatever with Daenerys, and he's going into hostile territory. And again, I think Cersei still wants him dead. So part of me is pretty worried for Tyrion during this episode as well about his outcome. You know, I don't think we're gonna. Someone made some comment about seeing basically a Red Wedding Part 2 or something like that. I don't think we're gonna see that.
I don't think we'll see that. There's too many invested characters that people are invested in to take that extreme. I think like what you said, or maybe Andrew said it earlier, we are going to see something happen to a character we all love. Like, we're going to lose somebody. There's going to be a cliffhanger. I don't know if it'll be Sansa. I don't think it will be, because I mean, your idea that she kind of is bringing something on herself by staying, I don't see there's any way that she goes based on what happened when she went last time. Like, to me, it makes perfect sense. Like, she doesn't trust Cersei at all. There's no way that she goes and thinks that this is that there's nothing else that's going to happen beyond appearances. Like, I don't think so.
I agree with you. But the other part of me says Gendry had to go back. Like, he basically was fighting alongside the Brotherhood that sold him off. And what's his name made the point of like, what do you say? He's been killed 6 times and you don't hear him complaining about it.
Yeah.
So there are other characters that arguably have suffered a worse fate than Sansa. And so that part of me, it's kind of hard to know exactly which theme they're trying to. There's so many at play at one time that it's kind of hard to know exactly which one is the focus.
Yeah.
Because I think loyalty is a really big theme through the end of this season. Is Arya loyal to Sansa? Is Sansa loyal to Jon? Is Tyrion loyal to Daenerys? But is Daenerys loyal to Tyrion? Where does Jaime fall? I think that, and maybe that always is, but for some reason it struck me even more this season of just questioning where people stand in regards to their family and the people that are closest to them. And so I think that one of these themes we'll see kind of take the front seat the next episode, but certainly it's hard to know. I mean, Game of Thrones is known for being surprising, but no, that's how I feel. I actually think King's Landing will be pretty uneventful. I think we'll be setting up a lot of underhanded stuff for next season. I think Winterfell will be where the action's at.
I agree with that.
Yeah. There's going to be something that happens in this episode. There has to be a pseudo cliffhanger somewhere.
So I don't think we're gonna. So here's where I'm gonna throw in the fun. I don't think we will see the White Dragon until next season.
Oh yeah, I agree with that.
He won't make an appearance yet. I think this one is going to be very political, this one, and I think it will be building a tension the entire episode, and something will happen right at the very end of the episode that will leave us for what's to come, because I think there's going to be a lot of convincing of Cersei and Jaime that they need to do the right thing. Well, of Cersei, really. That they need to do the right thing and combine efforts. And I think next season we will see obviously the culmination of all this, where we will get to see the White Dragon in all of his glory. And my question is, and Chandra asked it right when it happened, is what does a White Dragon shoot? Does he shoot fire or does he shoot ice? You know what I mean?
Water. Obviously, water is the enemy of fire.
So I'm interested. Like as soon as we saw those chains pulling, I'm like, what are they pulling?
Where did they get the chains?
Dude, who cares? Who cares?
No, literally, I had someone screaming like, "Where'd they get those chains?"
The ice is not strong enough for people to run on or a dragon to fall on, but they have it's strong enough to pull a dragon out of the water.
Yeah,
come on.
Plot holes aside, everybody. Let's not even talk about the fact that he was what's his face was able to get back to the wall and like he just kind of sprinted there.
So Rachel and I were watching, and she was like, "How did he get back so fast?" They got where they were fairly quickly. Like it never showed them resting. It never showed them camping.
And they were going uphill the whole time.
Yeah,
he may have just tripped and rolled the whole way there.
That's fair, but how the heck? How fast do those ravens fly?
Well, that's the key. I mean, you obviously saw them sleep. You know, they fell asleep on that island, so you knew that time passed.
Maybe it's like Dunkirk, where you have like a couple different timelines.
Yeah, I could have helped. It would have helped with the different timeline scenario. But as soon as I realized that they were pulling the dragon out, like my whole posture changed. Like I was laying down watching the episode with Chandra, and I was sitting up on the edge, like this episode's gonna end with the dragon's face and his eyes gonna open and it's gonna be blue. Like I know it.
It's crazy.
And then I cheered at the end.
It's this big now. Like the playing field is sort of leveled or tipped even in the favor of the whites.
The White Walkers.
Yeah, come on, man. Seriously.
Exactly.
I think it's stupid. I really do.
What? Oh my gosh, I loved it so much.
No, I feel like I don't know. I just feel like that was dumb. I don't know. Something about it. I just don't like it. Like it feels really dumb.
It's definitely a raising of the stakes moment. I mean, the reality is, yes, Dany survived one of Cersei's weapons, but I can't imagine and I'm talking about a couple episodes ago, I can't imagine when Bronn shot the dragon. I can't imagine that's the only one she built.
Sure.
And I think that was enough for Dany to go like, oh, wait, hold on. Like,
yeah, these are beasts that can die.
Yeah. And then I think, again, we saw that this episode where Ben the White Walker, whatever his name is, he took out Viserion. And so,
Ben the White Walker.
So one part of me says like, oh, dang, they got a dragon. But at the same time, Dany still got two. But then the other part of me is like, but Cersei also, she has shown that she could take out a dragon. And so it is a bit of leveling that's happening, and it's upping the stakes. I think that should be expected. I agree. You don't get the sense anymore that Daenerys is invulnerable, obviously. But
right,
I
and
think
that's
that
the key. But I think just the
dragon.
idea of now there's this zombie dragon. It feels, I don't know. It just feels too easy. Like it felt like a really just. Come on, really? I don't know.
Love it. I love the idea of a zombie dragon. I don't know why. It's like. Yeah, I don't know. I like I said, I cheered, so I'm excited to see. But I don't. All of that to say, I don't think we will see him again until season 8.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah. So
all right.
Well, we've exhausted the conversation at this point. I can't wait to see what happens next week. We will do a full debrief. We maybe should just do a spoiler-ridden recap.
Maybe we should do
episode.
Absolutely. Post on YouTube. Like let's break out some video. I'll have props. I'll get props made.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'm going to get blue contacts between now and then.
Oh, please do. Please do.
I would love
put
it
on
if you
white
had
face and wear blue contacts.
Anyway, so we're going to get out of this one. Let us know what you think. We have a whole channel dedicated to this that I had to turn my Slack down. I had to turn Slack off yesterday while the episode was going on.
You're slacking off.
We have a whole episode a whole channel called #SpoiledMilk. So hop in that spoiler channel and talk about your ideas and what you think is going to happen. So we're going to get out of here now. I'm Andrew again.
I'm Patrick.
And I'm still Luke.
Bye.
Peace out.
Bye, but.
Welcome to another episode of the Master of One podcast, the podcast that's still waiting to start breathing again after this week's Game of Thrones. Part 1 this week, we talk about Logan Lucky, Genjan, Jantuj. it spell check, change that to get. Like autocorrect, change it to get, and it totally threw me off. GetCon is what it is.
I noticed.
Let's try this again.